Welcome back to Off-Label Veterinary News, your source for commentary on animals, medicine, and practice life. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Give me a thumbs up. It costs you nothing and it means everything to this channel. Well, as many of you know, we've been reporting on some neat stories from the world's largest veterinary conference, the VMX, held every year in Orlando, Florida. And this year was no exception. We got to see some of the most important topics discussed in veterinary medicine down at the conference. And one of the topics that has been near and dear to me for the past decade is antibiotic resistance and how that actually translates and affects small animal veterinary practice. And while I was there, I got to interview an amazing DVM and PhD student, Dr. Dan Taylor, to talk about an important study that he and Colorado State University and the Colorado School of Public Health are conducting. Let's check it out. Well, at VMX, we have been talking about antibiotic resistance, and we've seen some interesting ways to help reduce antibiotic usage, but this is a guy who's actually studying why veterinarians overprescribe and misprescribe antibiotics in the first place. And I am so happy to be joined by Dr. Dan Taylor from Colorado State University. I mean, you're doing some pretty cool research.
Yeah, it's pretty novel within the United States. We have not done this study yet to assess how veterinarians use antibiotics in practice.
Now, how? How veterinarians? So how are you gauging this? How are you studying this?
Great question. So our survey represents scenarios within practice where we commonly prescribe antibiotics. I'm a practicing veterinarian. I prescribe antibiotics all the time. So what we're doing is gauging use through answers to this scenario.
And this is really important, Dan, because we are seeing antibiotic resistance levels, that are just, quite frankly, extinction level. I mean, we're in real trouble in another 10, 20 years.
Right. And that's why this survey is so important, because the step one is to assess how we use these antibiotics. Step two is to actually prevent excessive use of antibiotics. And what makes this survey even more valuable is the fact that this is an invisible thing right now. We do not see the effects on an everyday basis. However, we will.
Right. And Dan, I think one of the things that vets need to be acutely aware of is that if we don't get this under control, it's going to become a regulatory issue. I mean, we're seeing this all over the globe where countries are clamping down on veterinary prescription. And most vets, I think, have this misconception that, well, you know what, I'm in small animal practice, this won't apply to me. That's not necessarily true.
You're exactly right. You're a practicing veterinarian, I'm a practicing veterinarian. We thrive on being independent. And if we continue to see high levels of resistance with antibiotics in veterinary medicine, that independence is going to be taken away.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I want to caution, I know I've reported and written about antibiotic resistance and the issues facing our challenge and good stewardship of antibiotics over the past decade, but here's the thing, it also throttles innovation and development in this space, because if these spaces become highly regulated, pharmaceutical companies are more reticent to bring these products to market in many places.
Right, so it's not just failure of antibiotic effectiveness, right? It reaches far beyond and can impact the way we practice and the way future generations practice, and can go way beyond just medicine.
Oh yeah, and don't get me wrong. I want to go to the hospital when I have an infection or a surgery, and I want the antibiotics to work, not be ineffective because of the bad practices of my colleagues or of me. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, we appreciate the time, and we appreciate getting the message out there, and we encourage all veterinarians to take the survey.
So where do they go to take the survey?
You can go to antibioticsurvey.com, or you can stop by booth 479 at the VMX conference.
All right.
That's
and this
is
part of your PhD.
That's correct. So in addition to being a practicing veterinarian, I'm working on a PhD in epidemiology, and this is project number 1.
Wow, I love this. Love this guy. Love what he's doing. Go take the survey. Got to check it out. Thanks again, Dan, for talking to us today.
Appreciate it.